Good morning, Rambler families. It's Mr. Mead, and I'm here to talk to you about the NWEA test. Now, if you're watching this video, it's because your family will be taking the NWEA test at home, and I'm going to talk you through the process of what this is going to look like and why we're doing it in the first place. First of all, years ago, standardized tests looked the same for every student. You had a paper, number 2 pencil, bubble sheet, and everyone took the exact same test. About 15 years ago, I was introduced to NWEA, which is a new kind of test, which was really groundbreaking, and to this day, it's really an amazing resource that we use. The way that an NWEA test works is that, first of all, it's not the same for every student. There are banks of thousands of questions which the test will select based on how the student is doing so far. So let's pretend like I'm a 3rd grade student and I'm taking a reading test. In the reading test, it might start out by giving me some medium 3rd grade reading questions. If I get those wrong, it's going to start backing down to some easier questions. If I get those wrong, it will back down more until I start getting the questions correct, and then it will try to work its way back up to see exactly where my reading level is. The person sitting next to me might immediately get those questions correct, and so it will start getting harder. And if they get those questions correct, it gets even harder until finally the student gets a question wrong, and then it starts to back down. But because the test looks different for every student, and because it adapts to the student's answers, we call it an adaptive test. And it gives us very, very accurate results as far as what students can and can't do academically. So I'm actually a big fan of NWEA testing. I think it provides us really, really useful information as a school district. It helps us to better meet the needs of our kids. It's also used for everything from determining district performance to determining the performance of teachers. Will be used in my teaching evaluation this year to see is Mr. Mead helping the kids to grow in math and reading. And so it's a very important test. We want to make sure that everyone is doing their best. Now, the test will be taken on the iPad or on the MacBook, and when the kids are taking the test, there's actually really very little that you can do as a parent or as a proctor to help them. You're not allowed to coach them through answers. You're not allowed to rephrase questions or even to read the questions to them. You can tell them the directions. Basically, it's kind of limited to saying, here, you've got a question to read, and you've got 4 answers. You have to choose the answer that you think is the best answer. Probably the most important thing that parents can do to help is to help keep the kids moving. Some kids in particular really get stuck. They want to get the question right, but if they're spending more than 4 or 5 minutes on a question, it's definitely time to take your best guess and keep moving. Do keep in mind, too, that because the test adapts to you, kids might end up with some very, very difficult questions. They say, this is impossible. I can't get this question right. And I have to remind them and say, well, you do know that that means that you've been answering all the other questions right if you've gotten a question this hard, and then they feel better. They say, oh, okay, so yeah, if you're getting an impossible question, it means that you're doing well. You've been answering questions correctly. So the test is typically about 40 to 45 questions, depending on how the student does. It might give a few extra or a few less, but generally speaking, about 40 questions, and typically it takes an hour. Students are not timed, so they can take longer than an hour if they need to, but in most cases they'll be finished in an hour or less. And again, pacing will be important. Now, if the kids try to rush through too quickly, the test can lock them out. Where it will say, you're rushing, and then I have to do something on the back end of my computer where I can unlock them and allow them to proceed. If they get caught rushing more than twice, it can actually invalidate the results, and then they may have to take the test again. So again, probably your role as a parent, the most important thing is to help manage your child's pace. Make sure they're not trying to blast through it too fast. Make sure they're not going too slow and end up spending 2 or 3 hours on the test. It wasn't designed necessarily to take that long in most cases. So let's take a look. I'm going to switch over to my iPad view and show you what this is going to look like when I call to help get you set up to take the test. Okay, here we are on our iPad, and you will want to find an app that is gray that says NWEA testing. You can see it right here. NWEA testing. You'll go ahead and click on that, and it will pull up this screen. The session name and the password will be provided by me. So let me go ahead and just give an example. If this is a reading test, I'll usually call that MR 1 for Mead Reading 1. And in this case, our user password is 3343. Go ahead and enter. And we have had this take a long time. Sometimes your screen will turn white. You'll want to wait a few minutes, but eventually you should end up at the sign-in screen where you choose your child's name. You can type some letters, or you can use the scroll feature to look down. These are all of your virtual classmates until you find your name. I'm going to pretend like I am Wyatt. Go ahead, and then the test that you take has been pre-selected for you, reading test. You'll hit this button, and it will say, is this correct? Say yes, and at this point you are waiting for me to click on confirm. Once you've been confirmed, you click to go on, and you will be taking the test with, like I said, probably about 40 questions. If you've got questions or problems during the test, call me on my cell phone, and I will make sure that I take care of that for you. So that gives you an idea of what it looks like from the iPad side. Now, to get you through that process, I'm going to have windows of time, typically pretty much an entire school day, where I'll be working on making sure that everyone gets their reading test finished. So I'll have that window open, and we'll call your family and let you know, hey, it's time to take the test, give you the username, the password, everything that you need to get you started, and we'll take it from there. What I found is that trying to get everybody to start at the same time, most of the problems happen when you're trying to get started and you're pushing on it and it's not working, and I'm not able to help more than one family at a time. And so by starting people individually and allowing them to finish at their own pace, we're going to minimize a lot of those technology problems. You will want to make sure that you've got as reliable of an internet connection as you can, because if you lose your internet connection, it can freeze up the test. But typically kids don't lose their work. So if you're on question number 39 with one question to go and your iPad crashes, it's okay. You'll start over at question 39 again. So we'll give this a try. I'm looking to get all of the testing done by the end of next week, which is the week of September 14th. So stay tuned. If you've got questions in the meantime, please give me a call, and I will talk to you then. Thank you.